Alright, okay, back again to the next video. Got the jacks here. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm also trying to find stuff to put on here. But I'm about to go over a little project I have right now. This here is a Huffy Kozo. I don't know anything about it, can't find anything about it online, that I am building for my girlfriend, since she likes to ride bikes. That way we can ride together. And then I got my little ride over here, which you can barely see, but it's a Schwinn High Sierra. I ride that with a Street Fighter build. And if you don't know what Street Fighter is the phrase I coined when you take mountain bikes like this one and that one, and you build them up to run on the street. You know, with street tires and usually gearing to give it a little bit more, top end speed. Lightweight wheels, which is usually just alloys or whatnot. Something more street friendly, something more speed friendly, sort of a alternative to a road bike, kind of, sort of. So this is basically kind of a Street Fighter build, but it's more of a comfort build, since she just kind of meanders on them or whatnot. She's not really a really strong rider like that, but she rides, so that's all that matters, is she's out there on two wheels. And the bike is good for her. Found this bike, someone left it at a gas station. So I threw some street tires on it, specifically cruiser tires, which may not be so much performance, but better street manners and less rolling resistance than the little crappy knobby mountain bike tires I had on it. And I'm already in the process of taking this crank off right here, because I got this Ashtabula 3-piece crank, which, if you don't know what that is, an Ashtabula crank is a single-piece crank that you find on old and or cheap bikes. If memory serves, most of them were made in Ashtabula, Ohio, so that's the other name for these one-piece cranks, Ashtabula. But this is a strange 3-piece Ashtabula that I got off of a Mongoose Fuzz. And usually even these are splined like your regular BMX 3-piece cranks or 3-piece conversion cranks, like the other 3-piece conversion crank I have. And the axle to another one that I had, and I can't find the rest of it anywhere. But this one has this weird design on it. Well, not design, but weird way the crank arms bolt up to it. And that's what it looks like on the other side. I'm going to put this on this, and either I'm going to leave this chainring on, I'm going to put that triple on it, or I have a double somewhere that I can put on it, depending on whichever one she wants. If she doesn't care, I'm just going to try and see if this will work by itself. And how am I going to do that? But see this little piece right here with the 3 cutouts in it? That actually unscrews. With a bit of effort, you can knock that loose, and that's how you change out the chain rings on these Ashtabula cranks. Put that back over there. They're actually nice. They're actually steel and not aluminum, but it's still good. Most likely I'll need to replace the bolt that goes in there and the bolt that goes over the top of there, because they were pretty hard to get off, and I'm pretty sure I probably may have stripped them. And the funny thing about this bike is I don't know anything about it, but it did come with a 21 speed setup. 7 speed, 7 gears there, 3 gears there. It came with alloy wheels. It came with trigger shifters, which, yes, you can find those on cheap bikes, but usually not bikes this old. This bike is probably from the 90s. They're busted up and I gotta replace them. And of course, it still has your side pulls like you use right on the back. But the strangest thing is this bike has internal cable routing. Practically everything else is typical of this era bikes, except for the 7 speed. Usually you'll find these with 6 speeds at the most. Bikes this old, the 7 speed wasn't very common like it is now. And the mag wheels weren't always, they were kind of a little bit more common, but usually you find steel wheels on these, and usually steel wheels painted black. But these are actually mag wheels or alloy wheels. The spaded fork. But the thing that's getting me is the internal routing. I've never seen that. That's something I've never seen on a cheap bike. And all this stuff is, she wants her bike red and black. So I got some red duct tape. And I know it looks kind of ugly, or whatever. I might get some red electrical tape and go back over some of this back here. And got this taped up, which is actually good for a nice little chain protector too. So when you drop a chain or chain hits it and it tears it up, you just peel it off and wrap it again. Keep from damaging frame or paint, which might not matter too much on this bike, but for the bikes you like, it's a good idea to do. And right now, like I said, I'm in the process of taking this off. And these, if you don't know, are right hand thread, so they go this way to come off because the bike goes this way. And the pedal, left side pedals are always right hand threaded. And the little trick I always tell myself and other people to remind them is when you're taking off pedals, unscrews them towards the back of the bike, because that's regular left hand thread. So you unscrew them towards the back of the bike, and you have to worry about which way to turn them, because you turn them this way towards the back. So my next goal is I'm going to need to change out the brake calipers. And since I already have you here, I'll just tell you that I am a decent bike mechanic. Old bikes like this are what I got started on, building bikes. So I managed to do magic with these, with regular and higher end bikes and whatnot. I can build them real good, but the key is if you can work on a bike like this, Huffy, Murray, and get these going. And there's no big secret. It's just simple, basic things to make it more manageable, last longer, better performance. And just like I said with building a Street Fighter, with a bike like this, you're not actually going to be taking it off-road that much. And you could probably make a gravel bike with it, whatever that is. I don't understand the point of those existing or anything about that. But, you want you some slick tires like this, or like those. Less rolling resistance, like I said earlier. You want alloy wheels because they're lighter, because these bikes are already heavy. You get much weight off of it as you want to. If it's an Ashtabula, well, the mountain bikes typically have large gears on them, which is good for speed. But if you find a bike about this vintage that has a 3-piece crank on it, you can stick with that or put a bigger crank on it. Well, I mean, it's just if you like going fast, but if you're just cruising around, you want it to last. There's that. Sometimes I replace the derailleur, which I'm going to do with this one, with one of these black no-label Shimano derailleurs that you find on cheap mountain bikes like at Walmart and stuff today. And even though it doesn't seem like much, it's going to be a better performer than this. And that's really the main thing. This is a better performer than that. And these are widely available. And when you fooling with bikes like this, there's no need to put high-end parts on it. There are a number of low-end parts from 90s to today that are much better than the low-end parts of when this thing was brand new. Like, I would throw a tourney on this and it'd be excellent. Because it's not going to be a super awesome bike. You just need it to shift well, last long, ride nice. And with the calipers, these crappy, generally stamped steel calipers that are all flexy. I don't even call them brakes. I call them speed reducers. Because that's about all they do is just reduce your speed. What I usually do with these is I replace these with the side pulls you'll find on cheap BMX bikes, especially like Walmart bikes like Hypers and Mongoose. And those brake calipers are forged aluminum. Like I said, some cheap low-end stuff is better than old cheap low-end stuff. They're forged aluminum, they're beefier, they're tougher, they don't flex, and they'll stop a bike pretty good. A lot better than these things will. And there's that. If it's got grip shifts, I get rid of the grip shifts. Bikes like this, the only thing I use is thumb shifters or trigger shifters, or as I call them usually when it comes to mountain bikes, mountain bike drifters. Which this already has some on here, but I have another set I gotta replace them with. Because don't need no grip shifts. They wear out, they break. We're talking about longevity, ease of riding, and whatnot here. So we've got pretty much that squared away. Newer style cheap BMX brake calipers, forged aluminum, tough, better stopping. Trigger shifters, the better shifting, longer lasting, or thumb shifters, longer lasting. Tires, less rolling resistance, get better speed, more comfortable ride. And for those that care, less tire noise. And that's pretty much it. Get you a good seat on it. This one, I pulled this red seat collar off of another Huffy I had for parts because she wants a bike black and red. I'm doing a quote unquote paint job with electrical tape. See that there? Getting that taken care of. But I mean, these are simple builds. You have the right stuff, and usually, just because of out of sheer convenience, and I'll add this to my magic on making these things work and rideable and fun and somewhat fun and last a long time, is along with the alloy wheels, I always switch them over to a 7-speed. Generally, you'll find 5 speeds and 6 speeds on bikes like this, but I always switch it to a 7 because they're a lot easier to find and they're common, and chances are they're always going to be an alloy wheel. Front derailleur I never touch. So that's pretty much my magic on working on these old little junker clunker bikes. If you've got one that you want to have a daily ride, or you ever find yourself working on one or something like that, and I'm pretty sure you're seeing this red bike in the background. I'm gonna tell you a little story about this red bike. This bike was my dad's bike. I remember when these little Jollies first came out, I wanted one, most specifically a red one, and he ended up getting one day to help with his keeping himself in shape and whatnot. He died last January, but I got it, claimed it as mine. It ain't pretty, but I've always wanted one. I always wanted a red one. Got a red one. Well, he got a red one, and now it's mine. It had I got these red tires for it. I'm gonna red this out as much as I can. And the reason I like these is because they look like a new version, updated cantilever cruiser frame, more modernized. And if you don't know what a cantilever cruiser frame is, there's one right there. And then we're gonna get to that in a minute. But I got red tires for it. I got this red and black seat that came off that bike. Cockpit, which is your handlebar, stem, brake lever, shifters, and whatnot as well. That's called your cockpit. At least that's what they call it in the road bike world. But that road stem, those flipped riser bars, leather wrapped grips that I made, brake lever, that came off this bike. This was my project rat rod bike. What else I want to do with this is I really want to change out the fork. And just as a side note, I don't know why, they use Pacific uses these style forks now, because compared to a spaded fork like you find on mountain bikes and old cruisers, looks a lot better than this. And plus this fork to me doesn't match this curvy body at all, because it's all big and fat, and then it just slumps off into a flat spot and then the drop out. And I don't like it. I'm also trying to figure out if I want to pull the fenders off, change out the fenders, or just add a fender to the rear, or run none at all. I also have the back wheel also came off the black bike. It's a free wheel, no coaster, which means I've got a front brake to run. I'm going to be running this front brake. This center pull that I got off an old bike that was originally on the rat rod as well. But my plan for this is to get as much red on it as possible. That was my dad's bike. Keep it, have it nice. Now to this. This here was my rat rod project. Glued a tire on there. If you want to, and which I had already had pre-cut to make into a belt, because I'm gonna be once I get all enough stuff together, I'm gonna be making bike tire belts and selling them on my Etsy account. So that's on there. And this was a Huffy Nelluso. You can check my Instagram, same name I use everywhere, for what it used to look like. This is the original fork I put back on it. I just wrapped it with tape to be decorative, and I like black tape. I added one of my fenders to it and tried to use the Gorilla Spray glue to glue this on, but I glued it on, and I wrapped packaging tape around it to hold it on, and it broke loose. But I found some tiny zip ties cleaning up, drilled some holes, and zip ties is holding that on there. So it matches this, which is a piece of the same tire that I cut because an ex-girlfriend of mine, I was getting stuff together to make her a handbag, and I was going to use this tire, as a shoulder strap. Found an old mattress seat that came off my Schwinn Prelude. Threw that on there. Threw just some little cheapo knobby tires on it. Coaster brake wheel is off of the Next Lajala. Let's see. Thermolite pedals I'd put on it, and I really like these. And I was thinking about taking them off, but this is the only bike I have that's got an Ashtabula crank on it. And I'm trying to sell this bike, and I want it rideable, so I just decided to leave them on there. They were like $12, so it's no big deal. Let's see, this This crank actually came off the other Huffy I was talking about earlier that the red collar came off of. I don't remember what kind of Huffy it was, but it was some cheapo Huffy with 27s on it from the early 90s, about like that Kozo. And I like the crank because it's 5-spoke. I like 5-spoke cranks. I don't like a lot of these new cranks they have today with all their asymmetrical bullshit and whatnot. I like these. It actually had a little chain guard around it, but somehow it fell off while I was riding it. I don't know how, but I'm guessing it did, and I never noticed it, which made this loose, so I just put some zip ties on there to hold it in place. Hey, it's ratrod. Works, right? But it's got good pedals on it. Dug these bars and found these grips out of my parts bin and this stem. I either need a patch or replace the tube in the front tire. The back tires actually holds air just fine, but it just went flat while I was sitting here. And it's a nice little cruiser. The only thing left I really got to do is the band for the brake torque arm down there. I need to get one for it. That way you can actually stop without tearing up your wheel or whatnot. And as soon as I get that, it's rideable, and hopefully it'll make me $60 richer. Oh, and yeah, the original little thing right there, which is actually called a tank. If you look at older cruisers, you'll see they have what looks like a fuel tank mounted right there, the real fancy ones. But these are, which is a fake tank. This is a fake tank. Call it a faux tank. It's in the original one, but I took the original one, traced it on some thin MDF, wrapped it with some black tape, glued it, put this ace of spades on each side, put some clear packaging tape over it, glued it again, you know, that Gorilla Spray glue to help make it waterproof, drill some holes, and it's going to mount up right there. Looks good. Ace of spades. So that's that bike. By the time anyone sees this video, hopefully it'll be sold by then, because I don't have many followers or nothing, but I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do with what I got. And it's life, isn't it? Let's see, we got that. We got this, some random parts down there for me cleaning. I was thinking about taking this spaded fork and putting it on this bike, but it's just about an inch or two too short, which kind of hurts my feelings. But even if I did, I'd have to strip the paint off of it, paint it red. Right now, that's gonna stay on there. I like the bars. The bars are sort of like a metallic silver, but because there's some, but the bike's mostly red with black stuff, gray there. This chain guard's coming off. I want to change out that crank with a bigger crank. Hopefully I can find a red crank, like a fixed gear crank or BMX or something. It is a 3-piece, but you know, bigger crank to get the good speed like that one has, because that's the crank that you see on generally see on those early 90s cheap mountain bikes. Real big gear for some reason. But if you're building up a beach cruiser and you're building it up for speed, especially newer beach cruisers, usually they'll have most of them be a 35 to 42 crank on them, which is what they generally have. Sometimes you run across one with a 44, like my buddy Crozo Cobain. He had ran across a cruiser that had a 44 tooth on it. This outer one, I believe, is a 52. A 52 or a 54 is usually what you find on those old Ashtabula cranked mountain bikes and road bikes. they basically both have the same gearing. The only difference is with the mountain bikes, most times you'll find a triple on it, like that Huffy Kozo. But usually when I run across them, they usually almost always have doubles on them, like the old one-piece road bikes have doubles on them. They use the same doubles. So it has a big gear on it. So if you're building a beach cruiser for speed, like this was, and this one is, or going to be, then you find you a crank off a mountain bike or a road bike to throw on there. Plus they usually look good too. This doesn't, because it's slightly new. That's how I know this is kind of early 90s, because it's big plastic crap. But, and it is asymmetrical, but it is a 5-spoke, just like I like. Just like with cars, 5-spoke. That High Sierra, 5-spoke. That Trek that isn't mine, 5-spoke. It's aesthetically pleasing to me. But yeah, you throw one of those cranks on there, throw some nice little slicks on it, get you a real cruiser. Because see, the inspiration for this and the rat rod was not only it being a rat rod, but sort of like the motorcycles that race the Bonneville Salt Flats, Bort Track Racers, Cafe Racer kind of ordeal. And I'm kind of tall, so the seat's usually up kind of high. But, you know, I build them, you know, for one thing: go fast, handle good. And a lot of people be like, oh, well, you can't handle because it's a cruiser. I mean, I have thrown my Street Fighters and speed-built cruisers more like board track racers and beach cruiser into turns, leaning them over, just like you do a road bike. And the good thing is, because the tires are wider, you actually don't even have to always lean them over real far. Because they get there. They get there. It's real good. And that's pretty much all I have to talk about this time. And trying to make it a little quick. Didn't want the video to be too long. But like I said, went over how to build one of these so that they ride real nice. Slick tires. BMX brake calipers. Alloy wheels. 7-speed. Trigger shifters. You're good to go. Fast beach cruiser. Mountain bike. Road bike. Ashtabula crank. Slicks, handlebars like that, because I can't stand regular sweatback cruiser bars. They just make the bike so twitchy and handle like crap. Get some risers like that, or some low bars like that, and then you got yourself a nice cruiser that can go fast. And that's that. History of this was my dad's. It's now mine. I'm trying to work on it, and then because I don't have a lot of room, taking it back and putting it in my mom's shed. That's where it's going to live at. Go over and ride it from time to time. And most of the plans for this, I don't know. I talked about changing that to that. I'm not doing it now. That's why I'm not working on it now, because I wanted to talk to you. But also because it's not my bike. And my closest friend to tell you that whenever it comes to bikes, he trusts anything I do with them. Yeah, phone got low again. He trusts anything I do with them, so I can just throw it together because he knows I know what I'm doing. But I do often. It's not like I don't take his input. If he wants something, I tell him if I can find it, if I can get it on there, if I can make it work, I will. And if not, we just have to take a different route. And so I'm going to get some insight with her with most of the work I'm going to do with this. Because I could just store it together any way I want to. And I'm pretty sure she'll ride it, but it's not my bike. And you got to be a little bit more pragmatic than that. So I asked her about if she wants to keep this triple. If the triple fits on that crank. I've got a double if she wants it. Or I can keep the original single. Or I've got a single over here I can take apart. and throw on there. And seeing as that's the Ashtabula based 3-piece, the Ashtabula chain rings will fit on it. Now, if you had a regular BMX 3-piece or regular BMX 3-piece conversion, Ashtabula chain rings do not fit on them. The axle diameter is bigger on Ashtabula cranks than it is on the 3-piece crank conversions for BMX bikes. Because I tried that and it didn't work. It was too loose and it always popped the chain off. So that's just another thing that I'm happy it popped into my head right now, that when it comes to these Ashtabula 3-piece conversions, Ashtabula chain rings like this one, that one, and wherever the hell that double is I have sitting around here, are what go on them. And I wish I could find it, but I don't feel like looking for it. But those, the axle diameter and axle, that axle diameter is bigger than on BMX 3-piece conversions. Your standard ones with the splined crank arm pieces and all that use, well, I'll show you. These, your standard 3-piece conversion, or 3-piece style. I call them 3-piece conversion because their bottom bracket is just like a 1-piece bottom bracket. So I just call them conversions, which is what this actually is as well, even though it's factory on its DK. Those use regular 3-piece chain rings. Regular BMX 3-piece chain rings. Not the Ashtabula chain rings. Ashtabula chain rings too big to fit on there. Now I'm pretty sure I beat that in your head enough. Whereas it's senseless information to you or not, but if you're into bikes and you find this, I think it's some good intel to know. Whether you mess with these bikes or not, you might come across them one day and be like, I don't know what to do with this piece of shit. Well, now you know. Or know a little bit more. Or if you already knew, it's a refresher. Don't doubt me. I'm not wrong with this. I've been doing this for years. I'm not going to steer you wrong. If I wasn't sure, I would say maybe, possibly. But all of this stuff I'm certain with. So, I think I'm going to send off now. Don't forget to check my Instagram if you're interested in what this ratrod looked like originally. And a couple of pictures of it on there. Not much. Instagram. Almost forgot what I was about to say. Let's see. Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Check my Instagram if you want to know what that looked like, for the having or an idea of what it looked like. I was almost finished with it. It was going to be a simple build. I like my build simple. Even though it was going to be a ratrod, it was still simple and clean looking. Like, this is going to be simple and clean looking. Real awesome. Chain ring's going to go. Oh! Another thing I like about these that you don't see often is, unlike that ratrod, this one's torque arm mount is built into the frame. I don't understand why all these decades that more bike manufacturers aren't doing that with their cruisers. And the messed up thing is, Next is owned by Pacific. Pacific owns Huffy, Schwinn, Mongoose, a couple other bikes. And Huffy Nelluso, Next Lajala, made by the same exact company. But this bike has a built-in torque arm brace. And this one you still have to use the old clamp-on steel band one. Why is that? Just start building part of the frame. I mean, you're going to make this ugly ass rack a part of the frame. Make your coaster brake retention a part of the frame. And it's not like it's going to make it more expensive. If anything, these bikes cost the same amount of money new. $80 bike or $90 bike. $80, $90 bike back when it was new. And until they stopped selling them. It was dumb. It has some consistency. I actually have another cruiser frame that is going to be replacing this rat rod build as my new rat rod build. It's a Diamondback Drifter 1, and it has a built-in coaster brake stay mount, retention mount, whatever they're called. But alright, 35 minutes in, I pretty much said all I had to say. So, catch you later.